Okay, so we're live. Welcome back to the Magic Minds podcast. I'm Matt Burke. You're watching and listening to Liberty's #1 podcast. You up the Liberties, you up the flats. On the show today, I've got Derek Hanway. Derek is the service manager for Jigsaw. Derek, what's the crack?
Hiya, Matt. Great to see you again.
Absolutely brilliant to have you on, Derek. How are you keeping?
Yeah, we're just trying. I'm keeping not too bad. I know we're all struggling a little bit, some more than others, but yeah, look, if you don't work in this area and you can't kind of practice what you preach, then I'm in trouble. So yeah, just trying to get me exercise in. Certainly not trying to stay away from technology in the evenings as much as we can because so much of it during the day. But yeah, I'm not doing too bad, thanks.
Brilliant. Guys, I've asked Derek to come on the show. As I say, Derek is the service manager for Jigsaw. Jigsaw is a mental health service, a really, really popular and really experienced mental health service. And he's going to tell us about that and tell us about the difficulties, talk about the success, talk about how we can look after teenagers, family, all that, just to inspire people to mind their teenager. I know I'm a huge believer in that we need to look after our next generation, you know. So Derek, tell us a little bit about the work that you guys do in Jigsaw.
Yeah, well, we're what's called an early intervention and brief intervention service, Matt. So what that kind of means, when you unpick that a bit, I suppose, what does that mean? I suppose early intervention means that, as it kind of says on the tin, we try to get working with young people at an early stage where maybe they're starting to struggle a bit in terms of their mental health. So what that might mean would be where a young person might feel their mood is dipping a bit. So it's starting to affect their sleep. They may tend to kind of have a worry that is there in the background. It's a little bit like if you're on your phone or a laptop and you have an app in the background and it's constantly on, you don't seem to be able to get away from that worry. So if that worry is really annoying you, it's affecting your sleep. It's affecting your overall maybe interaction with other people. So you might start to get a bit snappy with others. You might start to feel a bit angry. Other things maybe where young people would struggle with would be maybe in terms of anxiety. So that might be just interacting with others. A lot of young people now, even when were out of school or out of college, even interacting online, on Zoom classrooms and that type of stuff. So it's really around low mood, anxiety, anger, and a lot of cases really, I suppose, until you can kind of name it and until you can kind of see what might be going on for you, that you might want to talk to somebody. And that might not always be Jigsaw. That could be, and I'll talk to you later on, Matt, about what we call in Jigsaw our one good adult. But if you do need to talk to a professional, let's say, in Jigsaw, it's the earlier the better. It's the earlier the better. And that's what we would say. So the other thing then, the brief intervention bit. So we've got the early bit. The brief would be that our model is we work with young people for about a maximum of 8 sessions. So usually it's around 5 or 6 sessions. Some young people need the full 8, but the average would be around about 5 or 6 times. And what we do is, because the issue is quite early in its kind of manifestation with a young person, you can kind of do some tips and techniques which actually can maybe think about what's going on for you differently. We can help you maybe work out what's going on. We can use some practices that are from, say, the mental health world, the likes of CBT and so on and other things, which can really start to help you, cope with that. It won't make the issue or the problem go away, but it might make you cope with it differently. And they're the types and tools and techniques, Matt, that if you talk to someone in Jigsaw and you're 13, 14, 15 years of age, they're the things that people can practice for the rest of their life,
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds fantastic. Are you seeing a higher number of clients at the moment as your wait list? Have people applying to you? Has that gone up given the current situation that we're in?
Yeah, definitely, Matt. We actually expected it to do that. We expected a lot to be busier around last April, May with the first lockdown, let's say, and we weren't. Do you know? We had some referrals, but everybody seemed to be in kind of the same place. And if you were struggling with something, to some degree, you were a little bit reassured that everybody else seemed to be struggling. You know,
Okay, okay.
so the other thing was that we noticed that, for instance, if there was a lot of young people with problems that were related to school, so you were out of school, so you weren't as maybe anxious about going into school. If you were being unfortunately bullied in school, you weren't actually experiencing it because you weren't actually in school. Um, so a lot of times people, now that didn't mean that the issues went away. It mean, let's say they were parked, or they were kind of like they were still there under the surface. So we felt now since kind of October, November time, we've got a lot busier. So, and on sometimes, unfortunately, those issues, because I was describing it about the earlier the better,
Mm.
unfortunately, it's now 6 months, 9 months later that those issues have got a little bit worse. So what we're finding is not only are we finding ourselves a lot busier, we're actually finding a lot of young people coming to us with a bit more complexity to their issues and their problems, you know.
Okay.
Um, so they haven't managed, it's unfortunate that they're still there since maybe February, March, or even last year. So yeah, we've got a lot more complexity going on with young people, and we've got this kind of trying to kind of resolve some of those issues um, within a pandemic where you're not really connecting with maybe friends as much as you would do if you were looking for support from mom or dad, or whatever the situation at home is. That's a lot more difficult because we're kind of in each other's faces all day, you know. So yeah, we are a lot busier. Now, the good thing is we're open. At the moment, we're doing most of our work on phone and video. Um, but if a young person had a great difficulty with that, they can come into their local jigsaw. The majority, I would say, is phone video. But we're hoping in March we will go back to having young people coming into our jigsaws for face-to-face sessions with all the restrictions and face masks and 2 meters and so on. But if they want to continue to do that on phone and video, it is actually proven really popular.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Are you finding difficulty getting them to engage with that online, like we'll call it online, the face to or the non-face to face, i.e., the phone or the video chat? Are you finding the younger people okay with that? Or
Absolutely. Yeah. We actually thought that wouldn't, we thought that we'd have a lot more difficulties with it, Matt, than we have. We also launched this year, or sorry, last year we launched it, but it's taken off from January. Jigsaw launched a web chat service. So if you go on to jigsaw.ie, and you go straight away on the front page of that website is do you want to talk online? And what you can do is you can sign up very quickly on your laptop or your phone for a web chat session. And what that is, in a very short space of time, I mean, you could only be waiting maybe 24, 48 hours, you'll get an appointment time to chat with a professional in Jigsaw, no matter where you are in Ireland. You don't have to be in a Jigsaw service. Now, that web chat can go on for about 40 minutes, 50 minutes. That might be it. That might be all you need. Now, if you want to chat again, you can do so again. You just log on again and you chat again, maybe with the same professional Jigsaw, maybe with somebody else. Now, if that person felt that you really need to maybe sign up for a local Jigsaw, your local service, that's fine. They'll just refer you to your local Jigsaw, you know. But we're finding the web chat is fantastic. It's just such a great service, you know.
sounds brilliant. And with the people that they will speak, is that mental health advocates? Is that counseling psychologists?
They're psychologists, yeah. They were. It's been funded by Sláintecare, so we might have heard of Sláintecare. So Sláintecare gave Jigsaw funding last year for a pilot for this for 1 year. So it started last June and it'll finish this June. But we're very optimistic that Jigsaw will be able to fund, thanks to all the fundraising people have done over the pandemic. I mean, people have really rallied around helping Jigsaw in the rough year that there was. We've actually done really well fundraising wise, better than expected. So we're hoping we'll keep that web chat service going after June because, as I said, it really is fantastic,
Yeah, sounds like it. Come here, as we're talking about social media and online, has the needs of clients changed for you? I know you're with Jigsaw, probably you with Jigsaw about 8 years, 9 years now.
Yeah, around about 8 years, yeah.
Yeah. Has the needs of the client changed in regards to social media? Do you see an impact on social media, mental health, and the difficulties teenagers are having?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny, Matt, isn't it? Like, we were spending time, I suppose, a lot before the pandemic saying, look, we need to we always said that social media had a balance in terms of pros and cons because when we talk to young people, they would have said, look, social media is the way I connect with friends. If I don't have my social media, I do feel lonely. I don't feel like young people have other young people have the same problems as me. And what we found, and why the web chat is doing very well, Matt, is we found a lot of young people going online and going on certain websites where they could anonymously post a problem, and they would get an answer back. Now, that answer wasn't always from a professional, so you might
Mm,
have been familiar with, there was one called Yahoo Ask, for instance, where you just put in an issue. So
right.
in one ways, social media was being used maybe sometimes not in the best way to kind of look to resolve the issue that you have. Now, otherwise, there was obviously, there was a lot of young people experiencing bullying on social media. But we were saying, look, and young people were saying to us, social media. Its benefits, but what's not changed, Matt, is that what's not changed for a lot of young people is our approach as adults to the issues that young people might be faced with. Um, have a way for us as adults to try and support that young person through maybe the rough time they have. That hasn't changed really, whether it's social media or not on social media. And what I have for you is an acronym that we use in Jigsaw that I'd love for maybe parents or older teens or young adults to kind of think about when they might maybe see a young person in their family or in their friends group struggling. Can I talk to you about that, Matt?
Brilliant. Sounds great.
Yeah,
Love
so
it.
what we use is we use an acronym called RALLY, RALLY. And if you can remember, and when you go onto the Jigsaw website, and I said to you, you can go in and chat with a young person or chat with a professional on the web chat. But if you go in under working with young people, there's an animation for this rally. Okay, it's animated, but I'll tell you what it is. The first thing that we need to think about when we're engaging with a young person around a struggle that they might have is the R is recognize. So first of all, it's to kind of recognize the signs, recognize what might be going on. So is there something like a really significant change in behavior? So at the moment, obviously, our mood might not be great at times, but have you noticed like that there's a young person in your life that their mood is very different for the last maybe 3 4 days, maybe even a week,
Like a break in patterns. Have you seen a pattern that has changed?
Yeah, exactly, Matt. Have you seen a pattern that's changed? So, like, I've two teen girls myself at 18 and 15, and I'd be kind of watching to see, they might have a dip in their mood on a certain day. They might not want to talk to me on a certain day, but if that doesn't lift the next day,
Brilliant.
we always see young people, they kind of bounce back a bit, and then they kind of forget that they were in a bad mood the following day. So their mood kind of, can kind of lift. So, but if there's something that's been going on, and we would say that maybe if there wasn't a pandemic, let's say, going on, we'd often talk to sports coaches. Have you seen a young fella that you're dealing with on a sports team? Has he started to maybe drop off training? Is he a bit more aggressive, let's say, with teammates? Is there something going on? The other way of visualizing that, and it's actually in the video, the little animation, what we use is, the iceberg analogy, where
Yeah.
often what can happen
What we
is
don't see.
what we don't see, Matt. That's it. So there's 10% of the iceberg is above the water, 90% is below the water. So what we might recognize is the outcome, or the behavior is the 10% is above the water. But actually, the reason why that's happening is below the water, So recognizing the signs is number one. That's the R. The A, we'll move on to the A. Is that okay?
Brilliant. I love it.
The A then is really acknowledge. The A is for acknowledge. So, like all of us, Matt, what we really like to have when we're struggling through a tough time is for someone to just acknowledge it and say, I understand, or I hear you. I can see you're struggling, or I can understand, and I'm here for you, as your dad, as your friend, as your brother, whatever that might be. So it's just to acknowledge it. That's all. Just leave it like that for now. Just, and sometimes that's what we need right there and then. Just to acknowledge.
Not trying to jump in and fix it, make everything. Just actually saying, you know what, I can see you're struggling. I get it.
That's it. Yeah, and we'll move on to that now. Actually, and why it's never, and there's none of it in the rally here about jumping in and trying to fix, because you're right. The next one is then the L, which is listen. So again, brilliant. It's actually just acknowledging it, and then the next thing is to actually say is to actually listen. It's to really actively listen, and that's actually a really hard thing to do, because often what we're doing as adults, sometimes as young people, is we're listening for the reason of responding. We're listening, as you say, to kind of jump in and fix. I know what you need to do.
As we learned on our leadership course,
yeah.
Remember that thing about the reloading? Are we listening? Are we judging? Are we bored? Are we annoyed? Are we really truly listening?
Are we really truly listening, Matt? Yeah. So are we kind of, maybe you're right, are we reloading our brain with the words that we want to do to kind of jump in? Exactly. So you can actually kind of do a lot of exploring this as ourselves in terms of active listening. And one of the things we do in active listening is again, not to judge, not to come in with our story, oh, I know how you feel. Listen, what happened to me? I was there. The other thing is to use very short, open-ended questions. So the thing might be, for instance, would be to say, you're going back to the acknowledge. I hear you're going through a tough time. Tell me more about that. What could, what way did that affect you? How do you feel about that? So just asking some really short, sharp questions to keep the person talking,
Brilliant.
So don't jump in, and because the time that happens, the young person will just close down. They'll just say, what was the point in talking to him? Because all I got was their problems, all I got was their solution. I was told I was wrong. They didn't really listen to me. So listening is really important. The next L, I suppose, is if what you hear is a bit worrying for you, it might be good to let someone else know. So the L is for let. So it's for let someone else know. So that's maybe, for instance, where you might say to the young person, look, that's really tough. That's something that, look, do you want to let someone else know? Do you want to talk to that teacher, or do you want to talk to maybe Jigsaw? Do you want to let someone else know? Or look, I'm really worried about that, and I'd like to let someone else know about this. I might give Jigsaw a call and see, maybe would Jigsaw be a service for you to help you with that. So don't always feel that you'll solve the problem or you're the solution. just because a person has trusted you to open up with the issue, it doesn't mean that you have to be the solution as well. You know, you can just
Absolutely.
say, look, I'm not so sure where I go with this, you know, or where we go with this. So it's let someone else know. That's really important. Um, and then you can say to the person, look, I'll be back to you, you know, or let me know how you get on with that. If you ring Jigsaw, let me know how you get on with your phone call to Jigsaw. And the last is the why, the RALLY. The last is the why. And the why is very important in terms of it's about your response. The why is for your. So it's about your response. So it's a little bit like covering some things we talked about already there, Matt. It's about not judging. Your response should be not to judge. It definitely isn't to overreact, you know, because we would often talk to young people who would say, you know, I'm glad I told you this. This is now me in Jigsaw or a worker in Jigsaw. I'm glad I told you this because my mom or my dad would freak about this, you know. Um, I really don't think I could talk to them, you know, and they could be really struggling with something, you know, and we might say, look, do you want to give your mom or your dad a chance? You know, do you want to? No, they'll go mental. They'll absolutely freak, you know. So we often talk to parents and say, really stay calm, you know, don't overreact. What good is overreacting doing, you know? It's just going to close them down from talking to you about the issue. So as hard as it is, and I've been there as a parent myself, it's so important not to overreact. It's important not to judge. We would often say to parents, make sure if you can hear your mom or dad in your head by saying, or if you feel yourself saying the same things as your mom or dad said to you, like, you big idiot, what did you do that for? Ah, I knew you'd go and do that. You know, that's the type of stuff that young people just don't want to hear. You know, they'll just not talk to you about the issue, you know. So don't use cliches, don't overreact as much as you can. So your response is really important. So the rally is a great little tip, I think, Matt, for us as adults to try and help that young person through a tough time, you know. Um, and in Jigsaw, what we would say is that's you really being a one good adult, you know. Um, and you can look up in Jigsaw, you know, we've got a lot on Twitter, a lot on our website about the one good adult. Um, so yeah, being a one good adult is, you know, is a hard task at times. But if you could write a job description for being a one good adult, a lot of that would be in the rally. You know, recognize, acknowledge, listen, let someone else know if you need to, and what's your response? You know, your response.
I really love that. I love the or recognize, you know, it's like spiritual leaders, Rain, Jack Cornfield talks about, you know, recognize, awareness, having awareness around it, you know, then the acknowledge, listening is powerful, letting someone know, looking for support, that's bringing people in. And I think the most poignant piece there for parents, right,
Yeah,
is your reaction to it, your response. You know, as parents, we jump in, Derek, you know, as we might feel blame, we might feel responsible, and then we'll project our insecurities and, you know, we'll ask those questions. Oh, you know, why are you doing this? What are you doing that for? Jesus Christ, get over it. We
yeah.
really have to be very mindful of our response, don't we?
We do. And we also have to be mindful about ourselves because as you say there from some of the people you're talking about, Matt, is that a lot of it actually isn't really about the young person that is in our lives. It's actually about our history, you know, what our experiences of school or our experiences of friends. And I would talk to a lot of parents who really get upset and very angry, I suppose, maybe if their young person is really struggling with making friends, you know. And I talked to them and I said, what is really going on here? You know, what's happening for you? And they'd say, look, I felt like that when I was 15, you know, I don't want them to feel like I did. And I'm going, they don't, do you know? They might be having a little bit of a struggle here, but this isn't really about you. You know, this
Great show,
isn't
great
really
show.
about you. So it's really making sure that the parent stays calm, They don't actually what we would call catastrophize in something. What they do is they kind of get a little bit too worried that if they don't get over this right now, their life's going to be a misery for the next God knows when. I'm going, no, it's not. You know, we don't know what that's going to happen is, but it isn't going to help if you give that young person a feeling that they're failing and that this is going to be something that they're never going to get over. You know, don't use language like if we don't resolve this now, or if you don't change the way you're thinking or the way you're behaving, your life is going to be very much a struggle, you know, blah blah. That's the type of stuff that parents really don't need to use their experience of life. Our experience of life can also teach us that actually there's lots of stuff that we can get over. There's lots of stuff that actually won't matter as adults, you know, that we can actually say, this is something that is a real struggle for you now, but there's lots of ways that we can actually live a really good life if we can learn to deal with this, you know, and learn to cope with it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love the point you're making there. Parents living vicariously through their kids as well. You know, they're projecting their fears. Like I had a friend recently say to me, you know, oh, my daughter is, she's really shy around people and I want her to be, you know, talk a little bit more, do it. And I'm like, is that for you or for her? And he's like, what do you mean by that? And I says, is that in benefit of you or the girl? I says, she's standing around with a load of adults. What do you want her to do? Can she not just be the way she is right now? Just let
Yeah.
her be the way she is and the way she wants to handle this social situation. I should respect her for being that individual. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's really important that to identify the individual in the child or teenager, to allow them and to trust them and to go with them on the process rather than control it and project their fears and insecurities on it.
Absolutely, Matt. Absolutely. And it's just important for us. Like the other term that's used a lot in parenting really is the helicopter parent, you know, that the parent is hovering over like the kind of SWAT team over a building that, you know, we see in the movies, like, you know, you'd see the SWAT team is ready to kind of climb down the ladders and break into the building to rescue the hostage, you know. The parent is like that helicopter hovering over. And then the minute they see something wrong or they see something that the young person is struggling with, they jump in, the ladder goes down, you know. And I'm sure you've heard it yourself, and I've heard it myself, even as a parent myself, is you know, it's none of your business. I'm not talking to you. You know, I'm not. Now, we don't want the young person to be rude, but again, it kind of isn't our business, you know. And it's particularly with lockdown at the moment, we're overhearing conversations where we're kind of like, you know, we're tending to kind of maybe be a bit more sensitive to stuff that's going on. So just remember that you're not that helicopter hovering over them. When they really want to talk to you about something, they know that you're there to talk about the issue. But if you hover over and you jump in with half the facts, or even if you hear a story or you hear something that you picked up on, let that sit. You know, try not to worry about it yourself, and just wait for the young person to talk to you about it. You know.
Yeah. I think that's a great show with the helicopter parenting, isn't it? Again, it's trying to control the situation. It's trying to, keep all the variables in line. And another thing about the kids, and you know this yourself, working kids and children, teenagers, they model our behavior. They don't do what we say. They do what we do. And if we're worried and panicked and throwing the baby out with the water, that
Yeah.
has an influence as well. So if we look panicked and worry about a situation, whether they're anxious or worried, it heightens it for them, doesn't it? It heightens it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it also means, Matt, that sometimes what we find in Jigsaw is we're trying to help the young person have the tools to deal with situations. And if the parent is actually jumping in, it takes away the young person maybe having the opportunity to practice that, you know. So I'll give you a very good story, Matt, about a young person. Now, it wasn't even got to do with Jigsaw, as in it wasn't in my work in Jigsaw, but a friend of my own girl had a summer job last year in one of the shoe shops in a town centre. And she had a bit of a bad day where a mom came in and got a pair of shoes for her own child. And the mistake that I'd say haunts anyone working in a shoe shop, the young one, the mom left with two wrong sizes, you know, a size 7 and a size 6, or a size 7, 9, 8, I don't know. Anyway, she left with the wrong sizes. And the girl was telling me, my daughter's friend was telling me, about this experience. No, she said, oh, this woman came back into the shop. She went home with the wrong sizes. She came back in and she ate the face off me, you know, and then the manager didn't really stick up for me, you know, and it was a mistake. And then the manager got on me back as well. And I said, oh, that's awful, you know, how did you deal with it? Anyway, we got talking about it, you know, and I was kind of saying, look, that's an experience that we'll all have in those jobs, you know, it's dealing with that. But she said, well, it was really worse because I went home, I told my mom about it. The mom went down the next day and ate the face off the manager, you know, and mortified the young one. But what she said to me was, what rang true with me was, I never asked my mom to go down there. I never asked her to go into that shop and fix the problem, you know, and fix this for me. And that's the kind of thing, I suppose, that parents are very in tune to now, is if they feel their child has got any hurt or they've had any level of struggle, you know, they feel that they jump in, they intervene, you know. And I'm sure a lot of teachers tell me now as well, is that they really struggle to get emails from the students, you know. And any emails they get an email saying, I'm grand, yeah, doing grand, works fine, yeah, have that for you next Friday, whatever it is. It's parents over worrying about the child, over worrying about their son or daughter's work. The parents are the ones that are absolutely melting the heads of the teachers, you know.
I
So
had that when I was a coach. I loved working with kids, but parents, I had the greatest difficulty with parents.
yeah.
All that, like you just said, helicopter parents. It was raining, they'd be giving out to me because it's raining. And I was like, I can't predict the rain. But the kids were happy running around the pitch,
Happy.
didn't give
Yeah.
a rat's.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's the same now, is that it tends to be, is like, yes, you know, the restrictions at the moment are difficult for you know, kids like working from home and so on, and homeschooling, you know. But they're actually maybe not doing too bad, or certainly we need to be more about you know, things like having a break, having a bit of crack, having chats, just for us trying to be a bit different in that way, but not to be the one being the anxious person, being the one, and it's not to be the one emailing the teacher, particularly behind our son or daughter's back, like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, to say, like, one young person told me, like, they no right to be emailing the teacher telling me that I'm not getting enough work or I'm putting in effort, and I didn't ask them to contact school, you know. So yeah, so look, there's a lot there, Matt, about just that helicopter parenting, just making sure that we're staying calm, we're, as you say, we're modeling that behavior by not over worrying about it, because that will result in young people over worrying about things, you know.
100%. When my young one was 12, Derek, I'll share a story with you. She had a phone, and I decided, I'm going to check the phone, give me the phone, who you texting, what are you doing, blah, blah. And I caught myself in the awareness thinking, what am I doing? Why am I being like this? She's never given me any reason to check. She's never been dishonest. She's never been yada, yada. And I had to say to myself, what are my intentions?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Is this because of my insecurity? Is this because I was a sneaky 12-year-old, blah, blah? And from that point, I said, you know what? I'm going to pull back and I'm going to trust her. And from the age of 12 to now, she's nearly 21, our
Yeah.
relationship changes, because I identified my intentions were because I was a sneaky 12-year-old. I was a dodgy little kid. And, I had me do. And that really gave me
Yeah.
great awareness why I was asking myself, why am I doing? Is it this intent? Is it this in service of her? Or is this to fill an insecurity in mine?
That's a
And
great
who is this about?
story. Yeah, and you know what? Even something as simple as the phone, Matt, that's exactly the type of thing that you could then tell the same type of story about, like, where are they going, who are they friends with, you know, and once they know they've got your trust, they're more likely to model trusting behavior, you know. um, exactly that's really it, you know. You've said it all there by that little story, you know. So yeah, so it's just making sure that, you know, we're not projecting um, what is something maybe of our own experience, you know, and that's really important. I would always encourage parents, you know, to have somebody else who challenges that thinking, you know. That might be a
Right.
therapist, you know, it might be, but you don't always need a friend to tell you, you know, you're dead right. Oh yeah, go in there. Don't, I mean, that's the opposite. You know, you really need to have your thinking challenged, you know, around that. And as you say, who is that serving, you know?
Yeah, and we can't get away from the fact, you know, we appreciate and we understand parents are struggling, you know, we're all struggling, you know, parents are finding it and they're trying to do the best with the best, with the best they can, and let's not get away from that fact. But again, it's who is this in service of? Is
Yeah.
it the child? Is it yourself? And what what are the difficulties that your service are having at the moment, and how is that impacting on the service you're developing or delivering?
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, to some degree, the difficulty we can have maybe is that if there's something that maybe is, I said at the very beginning, is very much at the early stage of development, let's say, you know, if it's something that, look, a young person is still, um, you know, having days where they're happy enough, they're carrying on, but there's something that's kind of holding back their mental health, you know, where it's something that's maybe it's, I always love to describe mental health like a scale, you know, that the old scales. Now I don't mean the kind of scales we stand up on, you know, but the old scales of the left and the right, they're tilting, you know, and if there's something where the balance is tilting a little bit off, then what we would find maybe is that we really love to kind of work with that young person as early as possible. I suppose maybe if we are looking at appointments that are maybe 2 3 months away, um, we do have the web chat. We do have a website which has got great tips and techniques and videos around, you know, dealing with anxiety, practicing self-care. So we try and get young people to even log on to our website to kind of just mind themselves until they can see Jigsaw. So I
Okay.
suppose that's our big thing, you know. We really, like, as managers, if we've got like a list of 50, 60 young people, I know, like, because I'm saying to, I'm a dad of teenagers, I see them as my kids, you know.
Yeah, of course.
So I suppose we really try and see young people as early as we can. Now the good news is that, you know, Jigsaw has expanded. I said our clinicians, our team. We have the web chat, we have phone video, which does try plug that gap until we can actually see them, maybe face to face, or they start their sessions on phone video. You know,
Brilliant.
that's probably our biggest concern. As I said earlier, and then when they do come in, I suppose they may be coming in with stuff that's a little bit more complex. So we'll try and work with them a little bit longer, you know. Um, so yeah, that's probably the biggest issue for us, Matt.
Looking down the road, you know, people are always going to say this is going to have an impact 2 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, the next generation. What do you envisage that the impact of this current situation, COVID, and this pandemic will have on the youth going forward? What are you kind of preempting down the road?
Yeah, I
Are
don't know,
you
Matt. Yeah, I have my own personal view. Like, this wouldn't be something that Jigsaw would like. Obviously, we're very research based ourselves, and like we will be conducting studies with thousands of young people next year and the year after to see. You know, we work very closely with the School of Psychology in UCD. We do a survey every couple of years called the My World Survey. Um, my own personal view, Matt, is that it may not be as bad as we think, because I've seen a lot of young people over the last year, like particularly this last year with COVID, who have really tuned into the messaging around mental health. Like just today, my own daughter was on a Zoom around mental health, and she was screenshotting some of it and sending to me on WhatsApp. And now again, we would be working in schools, and there's a lot going on. I'd say a lot of young people have got a lot more in tune with what is their mental health and how we need to look after it in COVID. Now, I think we'll keep that when COVID's gone, or
Right.
when we're
That's
living with
fantastic.
COVID. So I'd be a little bit more optimistic that we'll have a lot more young people really more aware of their minds and their bodies. That's not to say that some young people may have the last year have struggled a lot because of COVID, but I think the overall population, it may well be actually that we're coming out of this a lot more aware of our mental health, Matt.
That's fantastic. So what I'm picking up there from Derek, what you were saying there, people's emotion and intelligence will be increased. This will help build resilience. It'll help build, coping strategies. Like that stuff you were saying about the girl in the shop. That could be a fantastic opportunity as a gift of learning for her. Like
Yeah.
when kids go through anxiety or depression or death of somebody, these can be teachings. These can build life skills going forward. We can't immunize kids from these fears, worries, stress. I'm sure we can't.
No, no, and also I think as well is that it may well in a way as well, because we were all, kind of on it. We were all, getting on with our day. Then into the next day, there was issues. I think it has made us pause about spirituality and mortality and about life. About the fragility of it. Like a lot of young people have seen, unfortunately, tragically, grandparents pass away. We're a lot more aware of maybe looking after our health and how stronger we are. We can then maybe cope with things that come our way. So I think maybe we are hopefully going to emerge a lot more spiritual, a lot more connected with our mental health, connected with each other, caring for each other. I also think maybe there's a lot more maybe that young people will have in terms of an appreciation for friends and connectedness. That was much easier. I don't say we took it for granted. But I know, like, for instance, I had to drop in with my young girl there just Monday, Tuesday for a book into school, just into reception. They had it all organised. She never met anybody, but her mood lifted by even going in the gates, just to collect it. So I think young people might actually kind of, they may well even come out of this going, you know what, I'm really grateful for what I had before COVID, the simple things.
Oh, that's a
So
great
I'm
point.
I'm I'm hopeful that might kind of stick with us a bit, personally speaking now.
Yeah, I think just 2 points you touch on there. One, the gratitude at the end, absolutely. It's that's been glaringly obvious a lot of the way through. We're grateful for the things that we have, and when we come back, we'll be more appreciative. And then another point you touch on there was that spirituality, and also the fact that people now are experiencing, people that may never had to think about their parents or their grandparents dying so early. Now they have to, because I wasn't exposed to death when I was a kid. My mom kept me away from all that. And I struggled with death anxiety and worried about people dying. Now we're getting exposed to it, and as you know, if you don't feel it, you can't heal. And in order to get over these things, sometimes we have to be exposed to them. So I think there is a learning in that as well, isn't there, for
Yeah, there
people?
is, there is absolutely, and there's a lot maybe I suppose as well that the bit that I would actually worry about is a little bit about worry. I see a lot more young people now maybe worrying a bit around things. So, I even have my own 18-year-old contacting me a lot more. I'm going, my God, I appreciate it. I'd say they're great. But it's like, are you okay? How are you, Dad? Because unfortunately, like, my own mom passed away last year in August. So they kind of they see us as more fragile now. That we're not invincible. That that illness can come really easily, you know. But what I try and say to my girls as well is that, look, you know, I really appreciate your concern about me, don't, but actually, you know, really appreciate that we have this relationship, you know, that we have this connectedness with each other, that we're not alone, you know, in this. So I think, yeah, I think the gratitude and probably appreciating some of those small things will be really good when we move on from this phase anyway.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there at the end, Derek. Unity, this whole thing has really shone a light on how connected we all are, whether you're in, you know, socioeconomic deprivation, or if you're up in the rich ends of the other side of the echelon. It doesn't matter. We're
Yeah.
all in this. I wouldn't say together, we're in a struggle
No,
together, but we're so connected.
we are
We all have
connected.
the same fears and worries and concerns.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we can, and that's the same with our mental health as well. You know, that I think there's been a lot of people who, you know, let's say have been very open about no matter what kind of social economic status they have or fame, you know, how they've talked about their struggle through this. So I think, you know, where a lot of young people would have seen adults and more famous people, let's say, talk about mental health and struggles, I think they've seen now more family members, more friends. As I said to you, like I was with a friend at the weekend there just on Saturday. We met up and he was saying, you know, and this guy's got a great job with an American company. He's over 1,000 people across the world, you know, and my daughter was listening to him talking about how he's struggling in the mornings, you know, how he's trying to motivate himself. And I said to you little tips and techniques, and we walked away, you know, because we were in the Phoenix Park. We were 2 meters, but my daughter, we walked away, and she goes, "My God, I felt he was perfect. You know, I thought he this great." And I said, you know, so
Brilliant.
I said to my daughter, look, everybody struggles through some of that, you know. Um, so yeah, I think it's been maybe something of an equalizer for a lot of people to say, you know, we can struggle with that. But what struck me was about how open he was in front of my daughter, you know.
I absolutely love that, and I think that's brilliant. You know, I think it's great, that honesty. You know, and it gives children or even adults, it gives us an insight that, you know, we all, no matter, we all have the same feelings, and we might have different stories, but we all have the same feelings and emotions, and we
Yeah,
all hurt, and we're
yeah,
all
yeah.
human together.
Like I think we've become a lot more expressive and using language around COVID that, like, when we were, the old thing around our mental health was, how's the form? I'm grand. Ah, well, I'm not in great form at the moment, but I'm, you know, or whatever it might be. I think actually, you know, people now, particularly with COVID, are not as, there's less inhibitions about talking about your mental health around COVID. You know, I'm really
Oh,
struggling with it, you know, and that's a great thing. I don't think when, as I said, when we normalize COVID, I think that will stick with us, you know,
oh yeah,
which is really great. So I'm kind of hopeful around that, Matt.
that's absolutely fantastic. Come here, parents, teenage, do you always want to have a what to do list? So what low hanging fruits could we say to teenagers or parents at the moment, if they've just fast forward to this point? What could they do to as I would say, to mind their little selves, whether it be teenagers or adults? What's the low hanging fruit we can give them?
Well, definitely with parents, I would think that they you know, while recognizing the rally there, the RALLY, when I'm talking about recognize is maybe not to over worry, you know. Um, so, you know, where I talk about mood change, it could happen for maybe 2 or 3 days or even a week, which is a little bit longer than we would say maybe. You know, there's always a time to give Jigsaw a call or you know, look for support or look for advice, you know. But I would say probably as a parent, I'm talking maybe more personally as well, is maybe not to worry a bit too much, you know. The other thing is really try to look after yourself, you know. I'm trying that myself, even for my daughters, you know, where it's like, you know, I do a run one day, then I rest, I'll go for a walk, I do a run the next day. But I find I've got to really look after my own mood because um, I really don't want to be, I don't want to be snappy with them, you know. I really want to be quite balanced and, you know, to be there for them. So I would say, you know, as we say when we're on the plane, when the oxygen mask goes down,
Just, just about to say that. Brilliant.
yeah, look after
Love it.
yourself first, you know, and then your child. It's really important to look after yourself, you know. And that's not being selfish. Again, on our Jigsaw website, we've got great tips and techniques about self-care.
Mm.
Um, I would say do a bit of, you know, look at things like, you know, a Zoom quiz with another family. We've started this thing now. I said I have 4 brothers, and we've started an inter-family quiz for February, you know, and
Fantastic.
every house has a go at becoming the quiz master, you know. And now we've got cousins involved with it as well. And just think of something a bit fun, you know, that maybe the family can get involved into. And I think when you're looking after yourself, you're more in the mood to kind of do those things, you know.
Or
So I think for young people, you know, really don't be too hard on yourself. Again, on our Jigsaw website, we've got great tips and techniques about self-care, about self-compassion, you know. Just don't be too hard on yourself. Recognize that others are going through this similarly. Watch out for each other, connect with each other as much as you can. You know, and if you're really worried or if there's something that's, you know, you're struggling with, look, check out jigsaw.ie, check out our web chat facility there. Or if you're in an area where there's a local Jigsaw, the web chat service will tell you that. And, you know, you can give us a call, you know.
brilliant, absolutely fantastic. How can people support Jigsaw? What can they do to get involved with you? What you guys need? How could we support you guys?
Well, I think by spreading the message, I mean, following us on social media is great. Spreading what we're doing in terms of obviously the one good adult and us as adults being there for young people. If they want, as I said, we've had a really good year where the communities across Ireland have done amazing challenges and fundraisers for Jigsaw. I was on to a guy today who's running Paddy's Day Marathon. You know, in his 5K, he's running a marathon for Jigsaw. Chatting to him earlier on today. So people are doing great stuff. Look, you know, as I said on our website, there's our fundraising and communications team who'll get in touch with you if you have an idea. It can be really small. We've had people doing birthday parties online for Jigsaw, loads of things like that. So supporting us like that, it's always welcome. But as I said, you know, we're not. That's not what we're all about. We're all about, I suppose, really spreading the messages around looking after young people's mental health. You know, and all the things I said around really just making sure that we're there for them. We're looking after ourselves as adults, and we're there for our young people in the best way we can. Then, the more we're looking after ourselves.
Yeah, and I've always said, I say this all the time at the end of my podcast. I say to people, when you're kind, compassionate, understanding, and gentle with yourself, you see the world through a different prism. You know,
Yeah.
people don't get that. But when you're kind and compassionate and patient to you, you give that out to people. And that's sometimes it's counterintuitive. People they don't get it, but it's really important.
Absolutely, Matt. Absolutely. You know, and sometimes people say, you know, that isn't a cop out for like, you know, inappropriate or bad behavior. It's not. You know, it's actually less likely that that happens when you are looking through that prism. You're dead right. You know, and I also hear people saying, you know, self care is selfish. You know, or there's stuff that you're doing. I would say absolutely not. There's certain things that my girls know, my partner knows that you know, I practice it. I don't always religiously stick to the same time. Sometimes if there's something I need to do in the house, whatever. But you know, I think we're becoming a lot more aware now, and a lot more aware of letting the other people in our life go off and have that time themselves. You know, which is great. I think we've become a lot more aware, and we're not slagging them to say, oh, look at them, they're off doing their blah, blah, whatever it might be. I think people now know, like, they need to get for that walk, you know, whatever it might be. They need to get out for that run, which is great, you know.
Brilliant, brilliant, absolutely fantastic. I always end, I know you've covered this already. And I end my podcast and I ask, what's the one thing you'd like people to take away after listening to this interview?
Well, I'd like them to take away the rally, which would be great. Definitely that would be the one thing, Matt. And you know, as I said, we've got our web. Check out jigsaw.ie. We've got a great developed website now, which is brilliant. And just look after yourself and look after the others in your life is really what it's all about.
Quite simple. Derek, I'm absolutely delighted to have you on the show. I didn't think the interview would be as good as this. I didn't think it'd be as rich. I didn't think it'd be as rich and learning. You know, I go at these things now. I just open the door and see what happens. And that was fucking brilliant. There was loads of take-home messages. It was really simple and it's really easy to apply. And it's
great to see you, Matt.
Yeah, the last time we spoke, we were on the leadership course together.
Yeah, well, I think the last time we spoke, we were in the swimming baths in Swan Leisure Centre.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Or you shouted at me from the street one day. It's at Leonard's Corner. But anyway, yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, we'll have to do a reunion now in the summer or the autumn, won't we?
Oh Jesus, yeah, absolutely. So many reunions to get together. So look, thanks very much,
Matt. Stay in touch.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks a lot.